many of us at too many times in our lives, there's a disconnect. Somehow these deep-rooted needs aren't always met by the societies we're creating.
Private letters from Queen Elizabeth, secret conversations.
And it was very obvious that she was showing her how one does this royal role on the road.
And quiet moves by Kate Middleton have exposed a future for the monarchy that no one saw coming. What if everything we thought about who would lead the royal family? Was it wrong? For many years, the Middletons were considered ordinary. To those within the royal circle, they were simply a middle-class family from Berkshire with no titles, no aristocratic heritage, and no strong connections to the British establishment. They ran a party supply business and lived a fairly typical suburban life. But behind that modest image was a family with values, resilience, and a quiet kind of influence that would eventually reach into the heart of the British monarchy. Carole and Michael Middleton raised their children with a clear sense of purpose. They valued hard work, honesty, and staying grounded, qualities that didn't always match the world of royal tradition. The Middleton household didn't have royal staff or ancient estates. Their children, Kate, Pippa, and James, were brought up to navigate life on their own terms, to deal with real-world pressures, and to maintain a strong sense of self. As Kate Middleton's relationship with Prince William became more serious, the royal spotlight began to shift towards her family. Initially, there was some resistance. The royal institution had long operated within a framework of legacy, hierarchy, and long-standing traditions. A common family without titles entering that circle was not typical. Many observers expected that the Middletons might play a small role in Kate's life after her marriage. But over time, it became clear that the opposite was true. Rather than being sidelined, the Middletons became a quiet source of strength for Kate, and by extension, for the royal family. Carole Middleton in particular stood out, not because she was loud or visible in public, but precisely because she wasn't. While others may have sought attention or influence, she stayed focused on what mattered most, supporting her daughter. From the early days of Kate and William's relationship, Carole was present. She was a stabilizing figure, offering guidance without pushing an agenda. Her experience running a successful business gave her insight into the pressures of responsibility and the value of patience. These were qualities that proved especially valuable when Kate entered royal life. Kate's transition from private citizen to Princess of Wales was followed closely by the public and media. She was admired for her calm demeanor, her poise during events, and her ability to remain composed even in difficult situations. But much of that strength can be traced back to her upbringing. Carole taught her daughter how to manage stress quietly, how to listen more than speak, and how to stay rooted even when the world around her changed rapidly. When Kate faced personal challenges, such as suffering from hyperemesis gravidarum during her pregnancies, Carole remained close. While the palace followed protocol and offered only limited public comment, Carole offered something different: consistency, care, and a familiar hand to hold. Those moments behind closed doors helped Kate face the intense pressure that came with being both a public figure and a young mother. People close to the family have often said that Carole's influence wasn't just emotional, it was foundational. She wasn't offering political strategy or media advice. Instead, she gave Kate the kind of support that can't be rehearsed or planned: a sense of balance, an understanding of when to speak and when to hold back. These quiet strengths are part of what made Kate a figure the late Queen Elizabeth II reportedly came to trust. Kate's siblings, Pippa and James, also reflect that same upbringing. Though they're not in the royal spotlight in the same way, they've consistently shown restraint and maturity in how they handle public attention. Neither sibling has chased celebrity status, even though they've both been in the public eye at times. Their behavior reflects a broader family ethos, one that values quiet dignity over visibility and consistency over spectacle. This unspoken approach stood in contrast to some of the more traditional behaviors within the royal family. For decades, royal protocol had shaped how family members acted, spoke, and interacted with the public. But there were moments when that same protocol created distance or failed to offer emotional support. In that space, the Middletons, especially Carole, offered something different, a softer presence, a closer kind of care, one that didn't rely on status or ceremony. Sources close to the palace have said that Queen Elizabeth saw the value in that difference. She understood that the future of the monarchy would not just be secured through bloodlines and historic ties. It would also need to reflect the values of modern Britain: family, integrity, and the ability to connect with ordinary people. The Middletons, by simply being themselves, showed that it was possible to remain humble even while surrounded by privilege. Over time, what once seemed unlikely became the new reality. The Middletons were no longer seen as outsiders. They became a core part of Kate's life and, by extension, the extended royal family. Their steady presence offered a kind of balance that the monarchy, often criticized for its detachment, could benefit from. Carole's presence during key moments in Kate's life illustrates this influence clearly. During royal events, she was never at the center, but she was there, quietly supporting her daughter, helping with the children, and offering reassurance when things become overwhelming. For Kate, that kind of support didn't fade after marriage. It grew even more essential. Critics have sometimes dismissed the Middletons as too middle class or too ordinary for royal life. But that may be exactly what made them so important. In an institution often viewed as remote or out of touch, the Middletons offered a grounded counterpoint. They didn't challenge royal traditions openly, but they demonstrated that values like loyalty, discretion, and empathy could exist alongside duty and public service. In recent years, royal commentators have pointed out that Kate's strongest qualities, her patience, her ability to remain composed under pressure, and her sense of duty, are not just the result of royal training. They were present long before she became Duchess of Cambridge or Princess of Wales. They were nurtured in the Middleton home. They were taught, observed, and reinforced during ordinary family moments that the public will never see. There is also a quiet symbolism in how Kate manages her royal role today. She often chooses understated fashion, focuses on long-term charitable work, and avoids drawing attention to herself unnecessarily. These choices may seem simple, but they reflect a broader strategy, one shaped more by her upbringing than by palace advisors. William and Kate met as students at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. They started as friends and gradually became a couple, living much of their early relationship away from the royal spotlight. Unlike the quick, high-profile romances of past royal generations, theirs was slow, steady, and intentional. For nearly a decade, they dated without engagement, giving Kate plenty of time to adjust to public life and the growing attention that came with it. During that time, the media often referred to her with the nickname Waity Katie, suggesting she was simply waiting around for a proposal. But what many failed to see was the quiet preparation happening behind the scenes. Kate was not passively waiting. She was learning, adapting, and figuring out how to survive in a world where every word, gesture, and outfit would be dissected by the public and the press. Prince William, on his part, was also learning. As the future king, his life had always been public. But his relationship with Kate gave him a space that felt normal and grounded. It was clear that he trusted her deeply and relied on her judgment. In return, Kate supported him not just as a partner, but as someone who understood the emotional and public pressures of being a royal. As their relationship continued, they faced more scrutiny. Kate, especially, was under constant observation. Paparazzi followed her every move. Her clothing choices were debated in tabloids. Her expressions during events were analyzed for meaning. Through it all, she maintained composure. It wasn't easy, but it was a sign of her growing readiness for the role she would one day take on. When they eventually became engaged in 2010, the world celebrated the announcement. Their wedding the following year was watched by millions and marked the beginning of a new chapter in modern royal life. Kate officially became the Duchess of Cambridge, but in many ways she had already been performing the duties of a royal for years before that. The partnership between William and Kate was evident from the start of their marriage. They approached royal duties together, often appearing side by side at events. Unlike royal couples of the past, who often maintained more distant public roles, William and Kate worked as a team. Their unity wasn't just about appearances. It extended into how they raised their children, managed their schedules, and supported one another through personal challenges. Kate's pregnancies were among the most difficult periods in her public life. She suffered from hyperemesis gravidarum, a severe form of morning sickness that led to hospitalization and extreme discomfort. Even during these difficult times, the public expected her to remain composed and visible. William stayed close to her throughout, supporting her both privately and during public appearances. Their closeness during these times showed a shift in royal culture, one where emotional support and partnership were no longer hidden or downplayed. Behind palace walls, life wasn't always easy. Royal life involves a complex set of expectations, unspoken rules, and intense public attention. For Kate, adjusting to these pressures while also building a family was no small task. But the strong foundation between her and William helped her navigate those pressures without losing herself in the process. Their dynamic also changed how the public viewed royal relationships. In earlier generations, royal marriages were often more formal and duty-driven. Emotional distance was not uncommon. But William and Kate brought a sense of humanity and normalcy to their roles. They were often seen laughing together, interacting with their children, and showing affection in small, natural ways. These moments helped the public see them as more relatable and down to earth. The way they approached parenting also set them apart. William and Kate have made it a point to be hands-on parents. They've been photographed dropping their children off at school, attending sports events, and taking part in everyday family life. This approach isn't just about appearing modern. It reflects a belief in balance and connection. They're raising their children in a way that combines royal tradition with real-world grounding. Kate's public image has grown stronger over time, but it wasn't built overnight. She took her time to study the expectations of royal life. She observed how to behave during official visits, learned the subtleties of diplomatic engagements, and understood how to connect with people from all walks of life. Her ability to remain calm under pressure didn't just happen. It was developed over years of preparation and careful thought. When she finally took on the full responsibilities of a senior royal, Kate was ready. She had already spent nearly a decade preparing, even if much of that preparation was unseen by the public. Her early work in fashion and retail gave her insight into everyday life outside the palace, while her experiences under media scrutiny helped her develop a thick skin. By the time she became Princess of Wales, she had already proven her ability to manage complex roles with grace and focus. What also set Kate apart was her willingness to evolve. She didn't enter the royal family trying to change everything at once. Instead, she made gradual, thoughtful adjustments, choosing causes she cared about, speaking out on mental health and early childhood development, and using her public platform to promote long-term projects. These efforts were not designed for quick headlines. They reflected a long-term vision, shaped by both personal experience and strategic thinking. William's role in her journey cannot be overstated. He has consistently supported her choices and respected her individuality. Whether during public appearances or behind closed doors, he has treated Kate as an equal. This kind of partnership was not always common in royal marriages, but it has become a defining feature of theirs. It's also likely one of the reasons they've managed to maintain a strong and positive image despite the pressures of public life. Their teamwork is also evident in how they handle criticism and public opinion. While the media landscape can be unforgiving, they've learned to remain focused on their shared goals. When controversies arise, as they sometimes do, they rely on one another rather than reacting emotionally. This approach has helped them remain steady, even when others in the royal family have faced turmoil. Kate's ability to grow into her role without rushing or pushing has earned her widespread respect. She didn't seek the spotlight, but accepted it when the time was right. Her story is one of quiet determination rather than dramatic change. And as the royal family continues to evolve, that kind of leadership is becoming more important than ever. In a time when public trust in institutions is being tested, Kate and William's relationship offers something different. It shows that the monarchy can adapt without losing its sense of purpose. Their partnership, shaped by shared values and mutual respect, reflects a more balanced and human side of royal life, one that connects with people on a personal level. The family had gathered at Balmoral as they had many times before. They expected respectful remembrance, quiet dinners, and discussions about legacy. But what unfolded was something far more meaningful. Kate, always known for her calm presence, was carrying something important, an envelope that held the final letter written by Queen Elizabeth before her passing. When the time came, she read it aloud. What made the letter extraordinary wasn't just its contents, but the clarity and tone of its message. It wasn't simply a farewell or a sentimental look back. It was a message of direction, of intent, and of trust. In the quiet room at Balmoral, as family members listened, the atmosphere shifted. Charles looked down, saying nothing. Camilla's jaw tightened. Anne and Edward exchanged a brief, uncertain glance. The letter was a clear sign that Queen Elizabeth had not just looked backward with love, but forward with purpose. That purpose, as it turned out, was tied closely to Kate. Over the years, it had been rumored that the Queen had a special connection with Kate. The two had spent private time together at Balmoral during summers, sharing tea, walking in the gardens, and talking away from the formalities of court life. These were not publicized moments. They were personal. And they gave the Queen a chance to see Kate not just as a future royal consort, but as a woman, one who carried herself with a quiet strength and a steady sense of responsibility. During those visits, something shifted in the Queen's approach. Known for her strict adherence to tradition and formality, Elizabeth did something unusual. She gave Kate room to grow in her own way. She allowed her to find her own voice, make her own choices, and shape her own path. In the world of royalty, where every move is typically guided by precedent, this was a notable break. But it wasn't random. It was intentional. The Queen saw something rare in Kate. She saw grace that wasn't performative. She saw patience that didn't fade under pressure. And most of all, she saw someone who could lead with a modern kind of strength, quiet, consistent, and connected to the real world. Over the years, she reinforced this bond with handwritten letters, notes that offered guidance, encouragement, and subtle lessons about how to navigate the complexities of royal life. These letters were not widely known until after the Queen's death. It wasn't until palace aides discovered them in a private drawer that the full picture began to emerge. All addressed to Kate, the letters had been written during important milestones, before public engagements, during pregnancies, and after major media events. They were not just messages of comfort. They carried insight, warnings, and strategic advice. They were deeply personal, but also undeniably purposeful. In one of the letters, it was made clear that the Queen viewed Kate not just as a supportive wife to the future king, but as a future queen consort in her own right. This wasn't about titles or hierarchy. It was about trust. And it was that trust that reshaped everything. Princess Anne, known for her blunt honesty, later confirmed something that added even more weight to the discovery. She shared that her mother had long believed Kate was the person best suited to help carry the monarchy into the future, not just because she had married William, but because she had the temperament and public trust needed for such a role. This wasn't news to Anne. She had known it for some time. But for others in the room, including Camilla, it came as a shock. Camilla had spent years building her position within the royal family. After years of being criticized and often misunderstood, she had eventually been accepted by the Queen and the public to some extent. In early 2022, Queen Elizabeth had formally stated that she wanted Camilla to be known as Queen Consort once Charles became king. This had been seen as a final act of approval, a recognition of Camilla's loyalty and work over many years. But now, with the discovery of these letters and the quiet conversations that followed, there was a sense that something else had been planned in parallel, something involving Kate. It's important to understand that none of this was framed as a rivalry. There were no public arguments, no confrontations. But within royal circles, silence can be just as powerful as words. The Queen's actions, Her decision to lend important royal jewelry to Kate rather than Camilla, her private mentorship of Kate, and now these letters, spoke volumes. Jewelry, in the world of royalty, carries meaning far beyond aesthetics. When Queen Elizabeth chose to lend some of her most treasured pieces to Kate, rather than Camilla, it sent a subtle but unmistakable message. These were not random choices. They reflected favor, trust, and a passing of responsibility. Kate's style of leadership also stood in contrast to Camilla's. Where Camilla often followed tradition and formality, Kate brought a softer, more modern approach. She was warm with the public, especially with children. She made physical contact, laughed easily, and connected in ways that felt natural. Her work focused on issues like mental health, motherhood, and early childhood development, topics that had once been considered too personal or too political for royal involvement. Yet Kate leaned into them, and the public responded. The more people saw of her, the more they related to her. She didn't seem distant or untouchable. She seemed real. Over time, this relatability turned into something stronger, genuine admiration. People began to see her not just as a future queen, but as the kind of leader the monarchy needed. Inside the palace, some were uncomfortable with this shift. Kate's growing popularity and influence created a quiet tension, but her approach never appeared calculated or forced. She simply kept doing the work, showing up, and leading in a way that didn't look like traditional royalty, but felt more connected to the times. This quiet rise was not an accident. It was the result of years of observation, preparation, and thoughtful support from Queen Elizabeth. It wasn't about pushing others aside. It was about being ready when the time came. For Camilla, this transition was likely difficult. Despite holding the official title of Queen Consort, she could not ignore the signs. The public affection was leaning more heavily toward Kate. And within the family, there was growing recognition of the role Kate had already started to play, not just beside William, but as a figure of leadership in her own right. What happened at Balmoral wasn't loud. It didn't involve declarations or speeches, but it marked the beginning of a new phase in royal life. The Queen's final message had made it clear. The past was to be honored, but the future would look different. It would be shaped not just by tradition, but by character, preparation, and trust. And at the center of that future stood Kate. In many ways, Kate's journey reflects a modern evolution of royal life. She has never pushed for attention or spoken loudly about her role. Instead, her path has been marked by patience, quiet preparation, and an understanding of the responsibility that comes with her position. From the beginning, she chose to grow into her role gradually, building a solid foundation through observation, learning, and consistency. Now, that consistency is paying off. With Queen Elizabeth's passing, attention has naturally turned toward the future of the monarchy. And while King Charles sits on the throne and Camilla serves as Queen Consort, a quiet but powerful shift in public sentiment has begun. More and more, the conversation is turning toward Kate, not just as the wife of a future king, but as a future queen in her own right, someone who could play a key role in how the royal family adapts to the challenges of the 21st century. The late Queen's letters, which came to light after her death, only deepened that shift. These private notes revealed something that had remained hidden for years: the Queen's personal trust in Kate. Through handwritten messages and thoughtful advice, Queen Elizabeth passed on not just guidance, but a vision for the future. She saw Kate not only as a dependable partner for Prince William, but as someone who could carry forward the values she held dear: duty, discretion, and a deep sense of public service. That vision now seems to be unfolding. Kate's approach to royal life has continued to be grounded and deliberate. Her public appearances are never about flash or attention. Instead, they focus on meaningful causes, particularly those that reflect her personal experiences: mental health, children's development, family life, and emotional well-being. These are not traditional royal topics, yet they are increasingly central to Kate's work. And the public response has been overwhelmingly positive. Her ability to connect with people across generations and social backgrounds has become one of her greatest strengths. Unlike some figures who struggle to seem relatable within the structured world of royalty, Kate appears to understand what matters to ordinary families. She speaks with empathy, listens closely, and avoids taking the spotlight for herself. These qualities have earned her both respect and affection, two things that can't be bought or forced. Camilla, by contrast, has had a different journey. Her role in the royal family has always been more complicated. After many years of public resistance, she has worked hard to earn her place. Her marriage to King Charles brought her to the center of royal life, and she has carried out her duties with consistency and dedication. But even now, years after her official entry into the family, she continues to face a mixed public reaction. The comparison between Camilla and Kate has never been officially acknowledged by the palace, but it's something many observers have noted. Where Camilla represents tradition and quiet formality, Kate seems to symbolize something more forward-looking. That difference is felt at public events, in media coverage, and in the way both women are received by the public. While Camilla wears the title of Queen Consort, Kate is increasingly viewed as the symbol of the monarchy's future. This shift hasn't come from a single event. It's been years in the making. Small gestures, like the Queen's decision to lend significant royal jewelry to Kate, or her consistent presence beside William during key engagements, have gradually created a sense that Kate's role is not just supportive, but central. These gestures may seem minor on the surface, but in the royal world, they carry deep meaning. They suggest planning, intention, and a quiet passing of trust. Kate's family, particularly her mother Carole, has also played an important part in her rise. While Carole has remained mostly in the background, her steady influence has helped shape Kate's approach. Together, they have navigated intense public pressure without losing their sense of identity. This grounding has allowed Kate to remain calm under scrutiny, to avoid missteps, and to develop a reputation for grace and integrity. Recent reports have suggested that private conversations between Kate and her mother revealed just how much the Queen believed in Kate's abilities. These weren't media interviews or formal statements. They were simple, personal exchanges, passed along quietly and eventually made public. In them, a clearer picture began to emerge. Kate was not just part of the royal family by marriage. She was chosen, trusted, and prepared for something much larger. Now, as Kate steps further into the spotlight, her influence is being felt more clearly. She's shaping the tone and focus of royal work in a way that reflects modern values. Instead of focusing only on ceremonial duties, she's prioritizing long-term change through projects that impact mental health services, parenting support, and early education. These issues might not have been at the forefront of royal work in the past, but they speak to real challenges faced by people today. That focus has made Kate especially popular with younger generations, many of whom see her as more approachable and relevant than traditional royal figures. She uses digital platforms carefully, supports grassroots organizations, and takes the time to understand the causes she works with. Her work is not about appearances. It's about creating change that lasts. Meanwhile, King Charles faces the task of maintaining unity and stability during a period of transition. The Queen's letters left him in a difficult position. On the one hand, they affirmed Camilla's role, which he has publicly supported. On the other hand, they quietly outlined a path that placed Kate at the center of the monarchy's long-term future. Navigating that balance will require sensitivity, especially as public attention continues to move toward William and Kate. For now, Camilla continues to perform her duties with dignity. But the growing admiration for Kate cannot be ignored. Whether it's in the way the public responds to her presence, or in how her work is covered by the media, the shift is noticeable. People see in her a new kind of royal, one who respects tradition but isn't bound by it, one who leads without demanding recognition, and one who represents a more personal, human side of the monarchy. This doesn't mean the old ways are being discarded. Rather, they're being expanded. Kate's leadership adds a new layer to what it means to serve as a royal. It's not about replacing what came before, but about building on it, thoughtfully and carefully. Her rise is not a rejection of the past. It's a continuation of it, adapted to meet the needs of a changing world. As the royal family moves forward, Kate's role will only grow more important. She's not just the future queen because of her marriage. She's the future queen because she has quietly proven she's ready. Her journey hasn't been easy or glamorous. It's been filled with challenges, pressure, and constant scrutiny. But through it all, she has remained focused on her values and her purpose. In a monarchy that must evolve to survive, Kate offers something that no crown or title can guarantee: trust, connection, and steady leadership. That is the legacy Queen Elizabeth saw taking shape. And now, it's a legacy that continues to unfold, one thoughtful step at a time.